I'm sure you have a bunch of go for no stories. What's just one?
You're right, there are a bunch, but probably the one that had the biggest coup at the end of it. When I first started, I was a single mom with children that were 5, 4, and 2 years of age. I didn't have any capital and had no previous experience. Now, any one of those things would be a reason for somebody to say, I don't want to do it or I can't do it. But instead, I used my children as my reason, and I just kind of jumped in. But because of the lack of funds, I was unable to do some of the things I wanted to do in terms of travel. So if somebody invited me to, say, Louisville, Kentucky, or to California, to LA, to do a meeting, I would jump in my car, drive, sleep in my car. I just did whatever it took. I also was willing to go anywhere, do meetings anywhere, and sometimes I'd drive 2 and 3 hours, nobody would show up, and just that thankless effort of inviting many people and a handful showing up, and that really recurring rejection, that feeling. And but just plowing through that and keeping a really big vision, and where that became such an amazing turnaround as business started to develop. Now I had the kind of money I needed to travel, and actually after 11, 12 months in my business, I was making a 5-figure income, more than I could have made in an entire year teaching school. As a former teacher, I made in a single month. So, nice turnaround, but where it really came to fruition is I was doing a meeting in New York City. I was invited to do a meeting in New York City, and I now could afford to fly. I could stay at hotels, and I arrived late at this meeting because my cab driver could not find it. As I came in, I could feel the irritation. I could see there was no retrieving this crowd. People were fanning themselves, and so I gave a very brief overview. And at the end of the meeting, a Russian gentleman came up to me and he said, I'm going to take this to Russia. And it was shortly after the breakup of the Soviet states. I long since had quit listening to what people said. I didn't get excited by their assertions of greatness anymore. I waited to see what they were going to do. But within a handful of weeks, I started noticing these names. Svetlana, Igor, Vladimir, Valentin, these names showing up on my printout. And pretty soon there were pages and pages and pages of them. And then pages and pages and pages. At one point, I ordered a full downline printout before the ruble fell, back 14 years ago or whatever. And the printout on single-spaced, that accordion paper, green and white paper, 50 on each side. It stood, almost a foot high, 8, 10, 12 inches high, 500,000. And it was my lesson that there is a sowing season and there is a reaping season. They're not in the same season. And you've got to be willing to plant without looking at the results or counting today's revenue, because someday, you'll do meetings and meet with people, or no one comes, and then one day you do one meeting, and you get a nation.
It's fabulous. That is